Okay, so back to Mishlei. Yay. Okay, we are up to Mishlei 22:14. Shucha amuka pi zaros zeum adoshem yipol sham. Anyone want to take a stab? Not the easiest words.
Shucha, like quiet or silent?
No. Is there a relationship between the two? Not sure.
Is Amuka like a valley?
Well, amuk does mean deep.
Depth?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is, and this is a type of topographical formation. So shucha, look at Metzudas ציון there, bore, pit. So shucha amuka is a deep pit. You can pass that to Ellie, please. A deep pit, pi zaros,
Mouth.
is the mouth of zar.
Okay.
Nope,
Strain.
that's tsar. Yeah. Say again.
Zar is like strain.
Do you say strain?
Strain.
Oh, string. Oh, string. Interesting. No. Like a vodazara or a zar as opposed to a Kohen.
Strangers. Strange.
Yeah, foreign or strange. That's why I wasn't sure what you said. Yeah. Okay. Is a mouth now?
Probably I was thinking strange, and then
That could very well be. Yeah. So that's Metzudas ציון says zaros is milashon zar. Now it's a, you would think that zaros means like plural strange. I think for some reason, I'm not sure grammatically like how this makes sense, but it is like stranger. Okay, and then it's feminine. Okay, you'll see what happens to that in a little while. Okay, Zeum Hashem Yipol Sham. I assume that most of you would not know automatically what Zeum or Za'am is, unless Parshas Balak was your Bar Mitzvah Parsha, or if you know in the Haggadah. But you could look at Metzudas ציון in Yom Ka'as. So Zeum Hashem.
The anger.
Yeah, so Zeum means the one who Hashem is angry at. Okay, so the that's if you're going to go with Kas at least. Okay, so this is not the most eloquent way to write it, but the anger of Hashem, Yipol Sham. Yeah, Yipol.
Yipol is like.
Yeah, no, it comes from nafal, from fall, but Yipol means. That's lipol, will fall there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is our working translation so far. So let's go with the Metzudas. Sorry, we did Metzudas already. Oh, hold on. Always forget to do this. Got to get into the habit. We are now doing analysis notes. Save separate document. Okay. So we got Metzudas. Okay. So Sadigon says, Hashucha ha'amuka ha'devarim hazarim. So he does take it as plural, and he takes mouth as statements. Okay, so so strange statements are a deep pit. Megane Hashem mi shenofel sham. Hashem, you know what ganus is, or megane?
It's a negative word.
It's a negative word. Yeah. Hashem disparages. Please pass. Mishnofel Sham, one who falls there. Okay, so he slightly reverses it, right? The way we had it is the one who Hashem is angry at will fall there. This is that the one Hashem will, like the guy I guess falls first, and then Hashem is like to speak badly about or to look down upon. I can say, is there a better word?
I don't know. I just want.
What was it?
Frowns upon.
Frowns upon. Yeah, that's a little. I want to not add an anthropomorphism when I don't have to. And facial expressions are more of an anthropomorphism than ridicule. Yeah, ridicule would be if it was. Let's do this. No. Yeah, ridicule is a good one. I feel okay. Okay, yeah. Disdain. That's a good one. I think disdain's one who falls there. Yeah. I think that's actually good. The reason why I didn't want to say ridicule was because ridicule I feel like has to be verbal, right? So I just didn't want to like shift it that much. Okay. The Targum, which I always forget to look up ahead of time. Gumsa amikta puma denuchresa. So here so a deep pit. Okay. What anyone want to take a stab at what the Hebrew word that nuchresa is translating as?
No,
Close. That would be,
A stranger.
yeah, you just got the wrong gender. Nachriya,
oh,
right? Which means,
okay. Well, female Nachri?
yeah, of a strange woman. Okay, right? So, and we're going to see that this is a common one. Uman de margis kadamat elaka nafel taman. And one who is, I'm going to say provocative before God falls there. Okay, not so different, but that's that. Okay, all right. Art Scroll says the mouth of heresy is a deep pit. The scorn of Hashem will fall there. Scorn is also another good one because scorning can be in attitude or in like action. Now, where does he get heresy from? And this might be answerable just based on like knowledge of Mishlei, common Mishlei metaphors. I don't know if we've had this, but
Czar?
yeah.
These czar would be someone who's like foreign, and they've, I guess, made themselves foreign.
Okay, so do you know about the two women in Mishlei? You know one of them. Sorry, that is a woman in Mishlei, but she's not the main one. There's two main women in Mishlei. Ashes Chayil is one we've all heard of, right? The woman of valor, or as Rabbi Rosenthal read, the gallant woman, which I thought was an interesting thing at the Levaya. And the Isha, yeah. So she's sometimes called a Zona, sometimes called a Nachriya, sometimes called a. I think there are several terms. So the bad woman or the stranger woman. Okay, and so plain, yeah. Plain shot is that these are literal women, right? Ashes Chayil is a wife who embodies Mishlei characteristics, and the Isha Zara is like, or Zona is like an actual, either another man's wife or it's like a prostitute. But in the allegorical reading, which we don't typically do, what is Ashes Chayil a metaphor for?
God and the people.
No.
The Torah.
The Torah. Yeah, Ashes Chayil is a metaphor for Torah. And then Isha Zara would be a metaphor for either Avodah Zara or heresy. Okay. And if you want 19 shiurim on that, Rabbi Zimmer 2 years ago gave a shiur on the first 9 chapters of Mishlei. I don't know if it's 19 shiurim, that's in my mind how many there are, where he holds that that's the entire theme of Mishlei because he learns according to Rashi, and Rashi holds that that's the theme of Mishlei. Again, the machlokas between Rabbi Zimmer and me and Mishlei is I hold that the main part of Mishlei is chapters 10 through 31, and chapters 1 through 9 is just the intro. He holds that chapters 1 through 9 are the main part of Mishlei, and 10 through 31 is the appendix. yeah. So it's a nice machlokas, yeah. But if you want the first 9 chapters, that's the only thing I'm aware of that is comprehensive. He goes through all first 9 chapters, and he does it according to the Rashi's learning of it. Okay, so that's where Art Scroll gets it from. The mouth of heresy is a deep pit. The scorn of Hashem will fall there. Living Enoch says the mouth of the woman stranger is a deep pit. He whom God has condemned falls in there. And then Alter says a deep pit is the mouth of stranger woman. I feel like that should be capitalized, like she's like a villainess, right? Stranger woman, the cursed of the Lord will fall into it. And then this is Alter commentary here. A deep pit is the mouth of a stranger woman. As elsewhere, the stranger woman is somebody else's seductive wife. Her mouth is a dangerous pit because she uses it. Okay, let's not get interpretations there. Okay, but I just wanted to put that as a reminder that it can sometimes mean an adulterous wife, not necessarily like a prostitute, but it could be any temptress that is like illicit temptress. Yeah. Okay, so what are the questions? Let me actually just reverse this so we can have this closer to the questions on the screen. Yeah. What? I know, right? Yeah, Ellie.
So, like, we mentioned strange statements, and we mentioned like adulterous woman. Is this like some sort of metaphor for like nibal peh related activity?
Okay, so let's how are we going to do this? Okay, if I'm going to broaden the question. Okay, if P Zaros is a metaphor, what is the nimshal? Okay, and we have so far I mentioned 2 candidates. Okay, Avodah Zara, minus, right, heresy, and then Ellie's suggesting nivel peh. Okay, that's Ellie.
What's minus again?
Minus is heresy.
Right. Heresy.
Yeah.
And people kind
Nivul peh. Nivel. Nivel peh, as Ashkenazim say. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a particular reason why Zal wrote in the feminine? And if there is a reason why feminine, what is the purpose of feminine?
Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. It's not really a limb, it's a plain shot, and say that we got to come up with a catchphrase for this, which is that when Mishlei deliberately uses ambiguity, because there are multiple readings, there's the literal one and the allegorical one. So I'm going to say that here on the literal reading, it's talking about just a, yeah, I'll keep this here. Then it just means a stranger. But because it wants to have a reading where you can read it as like the allegorical foreign woman in Mishlei, then it's using it as feminine.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's not the only answer, but yeah. But let's leave that as the assumption here. Yeah. Sean.
Okay. In terms of the angered of Hashem will fall there,
Yeah.
is it that they're angered that therefore they're going to fall there,
Okay.
or is it that they're falling there and then become
Okay.
angered?
So let's just say this as what is the cause and effect relationship between Zoom Hashem and falling? Are they falling because they angered Hashem, or how do you say the other one? Or is Hashem angry at them because they're falling?
Because they fall.
Because yeah, angry at them because they fall. Yeah, and I think we what?
What's falling?
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to see. Yeah, so Sadigon said Hashem disdains one who falls there, and Targum says one who's provocative before God. No. Yeah. One who's provocative before God falls there. So we see there's a basis for each reading, right? I think both of those. Yeah, and then what is falling?
In this context, yes.
Yeah, what does falling mean in this context? And I think we can all agree that whether you take Pizaros as like strange statements, or if you take it as like the strange woman, it is the deep pit is a metaphor, right? So like we don't have to, I don't think like this is literally deep pit.
I mean, I was thinking like Korach related things.
Yeah, I mean, there are, okay, this is an interesting methodological question here, which is, so Eli's associating to Korach because Korach fell into a pit, right? So the question is like, so when Shlomo writes this, is he expecting us to make that association? So here's the thing I don't know an answer to, which is, on the one hand, we all, when you think of falling to pits as punishments, you think of Korach. On the other hand, if you wanted to allude to Korach, I feel like he should use the word that is used in Korach, which is not shucha, right? So the question is, what do you do with that data? Like if he didn't,
Just
pee, right? Yeah, the mouth will open its, the earth will open its mouth. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So again, I don't. It's possible, like if I were writing a literary allusion, I would use that term if I wanted the reader to go to that. But I don't know how broad his literary allusions are. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, there's two questions. What does Zikron Hashem mean?
Yes.
And I guess more specifically, like, how does that apply here in our world, in the Mishlei world?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Because, and here's the thing. Also, by the way, speaking of Mishlei worlds, right? We don't usually in shot level talk about heresy in Mishlei. That's like in the Derech Nister level, like in the Meiri's hidden way. But if you take the shot of the pasuk as heresy, so then this might be like a Mishlaic warning against heresy. Like, in other words, let me clarify what Arya means by Mishlaic world. So the approach we take with Mishlei is follow Sadigon, that is about everyday decision making, right? And if you want to take the Meiri's way, there's two ways to learn the pasuk. There's the nigla, the open way of learning the pasuk, which is about olam hazeh stuff, and then there's and the body and the physical, and then there's derech nister, which is about the perfection of the soul and olam haba. So heresy would be like an olam haba, perfection of the soul thing. But what would be interesting is if the derech nigla, if the olam hazeh, like practical decision making, reading of the pasuk also talked about heresy. Yeah.
Interesting that you say that, because maybe to ask another question is, what does heresy mean here? And is it like the normal type of heresy where you're like a heretic, or can it mean like heresy within a certain decision-making process?
Right. Is there such a thing as like Mishlei
Mishlei heresy.
Mishlaic decision-making heresy, yeah. Which by the way would be a very, very that'd be a big fetish, but I'm open to such a fetish, yeah.
Look, they just went up there.
Yeah.
What's the connection between the deep pit and then the falling? Like, where is he falling? First off, is he falling in like a deep pit? Is he? I guess like What's it seems like there's some sort of connection between those two. I guess.
Well, is there another way to read it? I assume that the sham there is the deep pit. Is there another way to read it other than that? I mean, you can say it's falling into her mouth, but that's like a little. I mean, you don't fall into someone's mouth; you fall into a
that's
pit.
kind of
Yeah.
what I'm saying, what's the connection between the like? I guess what's the illustration there? No, there's like a.
What is it? What is the deep pit and mashal for?
Yeah, I guess that, and then like, how does one fall into it?
Okay, yeah. So, so let's just put both of the mashal questions here. Okay, so what is the mashal of the, or what I guess was the mashal of the deep pit, and what does falling into it mean in this context? Yeah.
And then just going back to that methodological point with the pit.
Yeah.
And like the terminology used here, would you say that it's like a good hint when you're reading a pasuk that if he doesn't use like a normal word like I don't know, bore to mean pit, that like he's trying to be more metaphorical?
Not necessarily. So let's just first of all see what Mr. Fancy Dictionary says about pit. So this is an uncommon word for pit. Shucha, land of steppe and pits, deep pit. Okay, so really this is what used 3 times.
What is step spelled like that, or is that just
so
I think it's just fancy for like
step?
like
what country are you thinking of?
what country we're thinking of?
Mongolia, yeah, right. Yeah, so the Mongolian steppe. So the Mongolian steppe is like what is the definition of steppe? I think it's a plateau.
Yeah, like I think it's like
Steppe.
layering plateau.
A large area of flat, unforested grassland in southeastern Europe or Siberia. Yeah, so there's Mongolia there. Yeah, so I don't know why. I mean, the word steppe does not mean, the word shucha does not mean pit. It is eretz sia v'tzalmaves. No, this. Where does it say shucha? Oh yeah, arava v'shucha. So shucha is the pit, and arava is, I guess, steppe, like plains, like arve. Arvos Moab. Yeah, right. Yeah. So to answer your question, he could be using it because he needs that specific word. He could be using it because he wants to use it for some other purpose. Like the example I always give for this, and this is kind of related to the point I made to David. I forgot what David said that made me think of this, but do we have any more here? You can.
You can take mine.
Yeah. Okay.
I use the screen.
Yeah. Zivche. One second. Zivche Riv. So this is a good example of this. There's a pasuk in Mishlei, which says, Tov pas chareva v'shalva ba mi bayis mali zivche riv. So plain shot, better a dry piece of bread with tranquility in it than a house filled with zivche riv. Now zevach usually means sacrifices, right? But here, the plain shot people say that zevach, he doesn't say, means meat. Okay, so the plain shot is better a house, better a dry chareva, dry piece of bread with tranquility in it than a house filled with meat of strife or meat of contention. What's the usual word for dry? Yavesh. Okay, right now, I don't know with bread how it is. So the question is, if this does mean meat, why does it use this weird word zevach? Zevach does sometimes mean meat, but it usually means sacrifices. So here you get Rashi. Okay, and again, not that we usually learn Rashi, but Tov pas chareva v'shalva, better a dry piece of bread with tranquility. Tov hayla kadosh baruch hu lahachariv es iro, better for God to have destroyed his city. V'haya v'shalva me'averosein shel Yisrael, and it would be in tranquility from the transgressions of Israel. Mi bayis mali zivchei riv, then a house filled with zvachim, right? Shahayu makrivim zivchei avodah zara bavesa, that they would offer korbanos of avodah zarah in his house. So here, this is again my methodology of Mishlei here. My assumption is if there were only the pshat in Mishlei, he would have used the word basar, right? But because he wants a literal meaning that means basar, but an allegorical meaning that refers to korbanos, he uses the word zevach, which can mean both. And then for pas, plain pshat is it's Hareva is dry, but in the allegorical one, it's churban, like destroyed, So he'll sometimes use a weird word for the allegorical one, yeah.
So then based off that, unless it was already asked, what's the significance of Shulchan Aruch in this pasuk? What's he trying to draw at?
Yeah, so what is the mashal of the deep pit? And I'm going to add here in parentheses, just so we know that this is not a question we have to answer. Why use the specific word shucha instead of bor or something else? Yeah. Yes, Sean.
Okay. Why is it specifically a deep pit?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's what is the quality of deep adding to pit?
Is there a non-deep pit?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever walked on a street in Far Rockaway where there's a pothole that you don't see, and then you just you don't fall into the hole, but your foot stumbles.
What's the metaphor for that?
Also the top tree. Is there anything?
Oh, the Kri Ksiv?
Yeah.
Good question. Right. So let's put this here. Is there a significance to the Kri Ksiv? And I'm just going to quickly review my working understanding of Kri Ksiv. So, okay, quick review of Kri Ksivs, right? So, definition of Kri Ksiv is when the psukim are written in one way, but Torah Baal Peh tells you read it another way. According to the Abravanel in Yirmiyahu, I think there are 3 reasons for Kri Ksiv. Okay, one is hold on, I'm just trying to think the order here. One is it's getting at an idea, okay, that if you it's written one way and read another way because there's a duality to the idea. So the most common example of that we do every day is, what's a word we encounter every day, but we never actually pronounce it the way that it's written? Hashem's name, right? So the idea there, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, what's plain pshat in Yud-Kei Vav-Kei? Everyone should know this and have this in mind when they say any bracha. Okay, it's Machlokas. Okay, right. So Machlokas, I think Rashbam and Rambam. Rashbam says that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei comes from Haya, Hove, V'Yihye, was, is, and will be. Rambam says that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is its own unique shorish and has no corollary to anything else. But Rambam acknowledges that it means existence, okay, but God's existence, which is completely different, okay. And then when we read it, though, we read it as Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which means, my master, right? So what's the idea behind avoiding reading the Shem HaMeforash as it's written and then referring to it as my master?
Well, we have no way of relating to the Shem HaMeforash, but then the only way we can relate to that is by using the other Shem of master.
Yeah. Well, why is that? What do you mean the only way of relating to it?
Well, if we're using the Rambam's idea, the Shem HaMeforash is something that represents the otherness of existence of God. Yeah. Then there's no way that we can try to relate to that. And
so what's the only way we can know God?
What we do is change what we're saying to my master.
Okay, but what's the only way we can know God?
Oh, through his actions.
Through his actions, right? So the idea behind avoiding saying Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is for you to say Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is about God's essence, would imply that you have some sort of knowledge about it, but you don't. But the only way you can know God is through his mastery of the world. So you say Aleph Daled Nun Yud. So that's what I mean by there's the Kri Ksiv embodies an idea that you need both of them to get. Okay, that's case number 1. Case number 2 is sometimes the Torah will use Kri Ksiv as a device for a euphemism. So for example, in the Tochacha, I don't know if it's in next week's parsha or if it's in Bechukosai, it says you'll marry a woman, the ish acher, and then the Ksiv says yish galena, but we read it as yish kavena. So yish galena, according to the Ramban, means another man will it's like a violent word for rape. But so that's what it's written. But then when we say he will lie with her, right? He will sleep with her. So we clean up the language to avoid saying it in an overt way. And then the third case, which is the most controversial one, which the Malbim hates, is the Abravanel, which is that in Chumash, you definitely only have these 2 cases, okay? But in Nach, the Abravanel says that in order to be a Navi, you have to have everyone says, I think, you have to have certain perfections to be a Navi, right? But one of those perfections is not good spelling and mastery of the language. Okay, specifically mastery of the language. So he says, so Abravanel has this theory that the Nevi'im, he says, if you count up all the Kri Ksivs in Sefer Yeshayahu, Yeshayahu was a member of royalty and like had this beautiful flowery language and stuff. Yirmiyahu got his nevuah very early and was a kid and never finished school. And so he says, if you look at any book that Yirmiyahu wrote, which is Sefer Yirmiyahu, Megillas Eicha, and then I think Sefer Malachim, it's filled with kriksivs that are basically just grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes. Like he'll use masculine for feminine, he'll misspell words, you know. And the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah came along, and when Ezra and his Beis Din canonized Tanakh, they corrected all of them. But whenever, as we know from the Gemara with the parentheses and brackets, when you correct something, it's very dangerous when you correct something from a Chacham to erase what the Chacham initially wrote. Because what if Yirmiyahu was really actually using one of the first two cases of kriksiv, you know? So according to Rabbanah, kriksiv could be spelling mistakes. Okay, so now what do we do in Mishlei? So in Mishlei, this one is one that could be a spelling mistake or a spelling change, because yipol with a kamat and yipol, I don't know what the difference is, but it's very close. Okay. But Rabbeinu Yonah will often say that this is the first category, which is that it uses kriksiv as a device to convey like an idea that has a duality. Yeah.
You using the Barbanel's like seemingly his method for that third category. Not
Yeah.
that I know much about it.
Yeah.
What he just told me. Would it be fair to say that Shlomo HaMelech, as somebody who's both of royalty and a wise man,
Yeah.
would make a spelling error?
I think it's fair to assume that he would not make a spelling error. Yeah, right.
So if you were to say that there'd be a quick say, let's say in Mishlei, that we could like, in order to say that there would be a spelling error, would it have to be that there was some sort of like mistake given in like the passing down?
It could be, and with Mishlei, it is more possible because proverbs are meant to be like balpeh things, like meant to be said. So I think there are people who hold that Shlomo didn't write down the Sefer Mishlei. He came up with the ideas, and they were formulated by others. So yeah, all right.
Ready for more questions?
Yes.
Okay, so the next question is, just actually going back to the deep pit. Metaphorically, what's the difference between a deep pit and like a pothole?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm going
think
to add that
that's
here.
something
What is the quality of adding deep to the
And-
pit? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's embodied there, right?
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it seems like this pasuk there are no opposites. So like, what's the opposite?
Okay, that's a good question. Also, right? What
And
is
who's
the-
the audience?
Okay, good.
And what's the message, insight?
Yeah. Okay. So all of our standard questions,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
who is the audience?
Kind of sort of process
What
it
is
here.
the practical application? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Did we say something about angering God?
Yes, we said, what does Hashem mean in this context? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, another question on the angering of God.
Yeah.
Like how do we like relate to that? Like
Yeah.
all right, God's anger. How do I know?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So yeah.
Like, bro.
Yeah. Likewise, what is anger of God in Mishlei? Yeah, David?
Yeah, does the person who's falling, does he know what he's getting into, or doesn't he realize it's happening?
So I'm gonna just guess that that's part of the mashal. Just plain shot, was it?
Duality?
No, just part of the mashal. Like I don't think anyone knowingly falls into a deep pit.
You don't fall into it.
Yeah, you can jump into a pit.
Jump.
You can step into a pit, but you don't fall into a pit knowingly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the only thing you knowingly fall into is, I guess if you're diving. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah.
Then could I maybe to say that possibly maybe just know he's falling into a pit, but he knows that he's getting into something bad, he just doesn't realize.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll add this to the audience thing. Okay, how aware of this? So is the audience aware of any level of danger here? Danger here. Okay, let's go to ideas now. Okay, if there are other questions, then yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Idea.
Okay, idea. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, fine. So I have like a bunch of ideas.
So pick one.
No, but like it's a bunch of like I think it's
Pick something that you can say in a minute or two.
that's not what I mean, but I'll just start talking.
Okay.
All right. So I want to start with like there's a difference in like the deep pit and like the a pothole.
Yeah.
Like a pothole seems a little like innocent in a way.
Oh, this is a 40-minute time limit, not 45. Oof. Okay. Well, we're gonna end here 5 minutes early. Yeah.
Okay. So
We can continue discussing it, but yeah.
A deep pit is a pothole is something innocent, right? It's where like it seems innocent, where you there's a pothole, you think it's not going to cause a lot of damage, but when you actually go into it, it may seem like you're not hurting as much and you can tolerate the pain, but the longer you're there, it can be more I don't know what the right word is, overwhelming or impactful or whatever it is, and ultimately, if you're in there for a long time, you may end up even digging the hole even deeper.
Okay.
Right. So I'm using that to pivot to the next point is that the stranger is someone who is he's already out. He's like fully gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who's already he's like he veered off the path, right? He's already in that deep environment. He got there because he didn't pull himself out immediately. He kind of just like stayed there in his own, thinking because he thought he could handle it or whatever. So he kind of just like went on.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the anger.
So let me just make sure I'm getting this clear.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's relating to this pit as if it were a shallower pit, but in reality, it's a deep pit. In other words, he's going into this thinking I could step in and then like climb out afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's a deep pit, then you get in and then you realize you can't get out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So and it's exactly the deep pit is when he woke up and like, wow, he realized that it's actually okay, and the anger.
So let me just line that up with an answer to our question. So in terms of the mashal of the deep pit, so there's two elements of the mashal the way Ariel's saying it. One is that he did not realize the depth, because I think this goes to like my response to David's question. No one knowingly falls into a deep pit, right? So the only reason you would set foot in that pit is either you didn't know there was a pit there at all, or you thought that it was a shallower pit. Okay. And then the other element is deep. What's the significance of deep is you can't get out. Right. Yeah.
All right. And the anger and the anger of Hashem is that this individual is already off the deep end, and the anger of Hashem comes about through the consequences of his lifestyle that he's already in, because when crap is the fan, like good things don't happen to you. That's just the Mishlei.
So you're reading it that Hashem is angry at the people who fall into the pit, not that Hashem's anger causes you to fall into the pit. In other words, this guy gets himself into the pit, that gets himself into a world of consequences that he can't escape from, and then that is what makes Hashem angry. In other words, a stumbling in the potholes of life, like that's not going to arouse Hashem's anger. Hashem's anger being like a mashal for like intensive punishment or consequence, something like that, right? But that's not the way Ariel's learning it. Is that a stumble would not warrant the mashal of Hashem's anger, but being locked into a lifestyle of bad consequences through bad decisions is.
And an example of that is, I think I heard this from the kids, where like when someone does a hate, but let's say someone can't control himself when there's a really hot girl there and he wants that beer, right? And like you're so overwhelmed with that desire that like I think you become like a shogeg when you're overwhelmed. But the shuvah is not on that point. It's on the point where you put yourself in a situation where you do that hate. Like,
correct.
You shouldn't have secluded yourself with that.
Right. And
so that's the problem.
Yeah, and I would add, just in that example, if you find yourself stumbling in that situation, so there is one opportunity which will dictate whether you make this into a deep pit or a shallow pit, which is what do you do the next time? What do you do afterwards? What did you learn from that mistake? And are you actually guarding yourself against that? Because the guy who 10 times is falling into, being with an Isha Zara or whatever, that's not an accident. Like that's lack of learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
About the mouth of a stranger.
Oh yeah, we didn't ask about mouth, right?
Yeah.
We didn't ask about mouth, and we didn't ask who the stranger is.
Correct. Those are important questions. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, so who or what is the P Zarot, right? Like what does mouth imply, and who or what is the stranger? Yes, yeah. Okay, anyone have another idea to run by? Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think answering that question of mouth and stranger.
Yeah.
So for me, mouth is very indicative of like a rhetoric that someone's using.
Yeah.
Right, and specifically the second.
Sorry,
half.
just 1 second. Got to put on my AP English hat. What is the definition of rhetoric? Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Rhetoric is the ways in which a person speaks to kind of present a certain idea or.
Okay,
do something.
that's fine. I prefer Aristotle's definition because he invented rhetoric. Is the art of persuasion.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, but it has to do with how you speak and present
Yeah.
your speech. Yeah.
And secondly, the last part, right, which is that the angered of Hashem are going to fall there, which to me says that the non-angered of Hashem are not going to fall there.
Okay, that's a fair deduction. Yeah.
So, what is the angered of Hashem? Someone who doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know why they're doing it, and hasn't really investigated the system of Judaism and what it's prescribing, right?
Mhm.
So they might experience and they might be a part of Judaism in that, like, culturally they're surrounded by it, but they haven't investigated, they haven't been critical about all the things that they're doing and how everything works. So they don't know the reasons behind things, and they can't deduce and figure out how one thing follows from another. Okay. Now, if a stranger then comes to them and starts talking to them about their things, so then they're not going to, one, be able to see the fallacies that the stranger is making, and as a result, they're going to not be able to disprove what the stranger is saying, and they're going to fall into the trap of whatever the stranger is saying.
Okay, good. There are definitely meforshim who take that approach, which we'll probably see tomorrow. I just want to quickly read something from elsewhere initially. Is my Tanakh still guys? Don't give me a Tanakh, please. Yeah, that's fine. I want to mention that let's say Ariel's case of like you can't resist yourself when you're around like a hot girl or whatever. So it's not because of her appearance that you get taken in. It's because of her speech. Okay. Now there's obviously she needs a certain attractiveness in order for this to apply. But I think if you take this literally, it's the speech. And I just want to read to you in Mishlei. So Isha's Chayil is which chapter in Mishlei? The last one. So anyone know the chapter that features the Isha Zara? 7. Okay, 7. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to read to you this description here. Okay, because this is I think if he's referring to that woman, he has in mind that you've already read chapter 7. So he says that my words will save you from a forbidden woman, from a strange woman who makes her words glib, like makes them like smooth. So this is Mishlei talking. I've looked out from the window of my house through my lattice, and I saw among the fools, I discerned among the youths, a lad who lacked an understanding heart, passing through the marketplace near her corner, and he strode towards her house. In the twilight, as daylight wanes, in the blackness of night and darkness, then behold, a woman approached him, bedecked as a harlot with siege in her heart. She coos and she entices. Her feet do not dwell at home. Sometimes in the courtyard, sometimes in the streets. She lurks at every corner. She seized him and kissed him. She thrust forth her face and said to him, I have vowed to bring peace offerings, and today I have fulfilled my vow. That is why I went out towards you to seek your countenance, and I have found you. I have decked my bed with spreads. Carved bedpoles are hung with Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us sate ourselves with love until the morning. Let us rejoice with acts of love. For my husband is not at home. He has gone on a distant journey. He has taken the money pouch with him. He will come home at the appointed time. She sways him with her abundant sophistication. She thrusts him with the glibness of her lips. He follows her unsuspectingly like an ox to the slaughter, rushing like a venomous snake to discipline the foolish one, until the arrow splits his liver. He is like a bird hurrying to the trap, unaware that his life will be lost. So now, children, listen to me and heed the words of my mouth. Do not incline your heart to her ways. Do not stray in her pathways, for she has felled many victims. The number of her slain is huge. Her house is the way to the grave, descending to the chambers of death. So like that's the
Exactly like this pasuk.
yeah. So that's what I mean. Like he's expecting that you've read that already. So when you hear this, you're like, that's what it means for her to talk to you, whether you take it literally like a harlot or figuratively like seducing your mind with like, based on your lack of exposure to experience of Judaism. Yeah.
The Zoom meeting ends before you end it when you lose the recording.
Oh yeah. Did that happen? No, not yet. Okay. Well, then any second though, right? Yeah. Less than a minute. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So we'll get cut off and then we'll hopefully have a Zoom account for tomorrow. Oh, let's. It probably will, but let's just end it now. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.